welcome to Beyond the Classroom podcast. I'm so excited today to have Brianna Edgerton with us. She is what I call a special education extraordinaire. She's also one of our trainers here at APT. She teaches Article 9 for us, and I'm so excited to just have a conversation today. So welcome, Brianna.
Thank you.
And if you don't mind just maybe sharing a little bit about yourself with our audience.
Sure.
Okay.
So I'm really excited to be here too. I like talking about anything special education, disability related. I am a teacher, special education teacher. I'm also the IEP chair at my school, and that comes with kind of working beyond just the classroom setting, but in the whole school setting. I'm also a beginning teacher mentor, so
Nice.
I encourage the new ones coming in that it's a fun job. It's very exciting. And then I'm also a trainer for Article 9 here in Arizona, but I do the live Zoom classes, and that's a great gig. So thanks for letting me do that. It's a fun job.
Yeah, you do an amazing job. Yeah, so you don't live here in Arizona, but we're able to teach on Zoom, so that works out wonderfully for us. So great. So we're going to kind of talk about advocacy, collaboration, and then goal setting, and then kind of big picture. So I wanted to ask you about the role that advocacy plays in ensuring equitable support for our kids in special education.
So the law says that our kids with disabilities get a free and appropriate education, period. And the word appropriate is the one that you really look at when you're talking about advocacy.
Yeah.
And the role it plays, unfortunately, is pretty heavy because not all of the resources and the things that need to be in place for that appropriate education exist automatically. And so it takes a very collaborative effort on everyone's part to make sure that those things are in place for the individual student. Because the teacher can't advocate by themselves to get things in the classroom that need to be there for that appropriate education. The student is there to learn and get that education. It's not their job to advocate for themselves, but we equip them in the same way and help them to advocate. But the caretaker role, the guardian, the parent, they play a key role in advocacy. Of course, your administrators, and then up beyond there, your school system employees, legislature, all of that. But really, it's like the base level team are your advocates on the ground, and it takes a huge part of the parent and teacher to work together first. That's my take on it as a teacher.
Yeah. So as a teacher, what advice would you give parents if, say, they're new to this, or maybe they're not new and they need some ideas for maybe things aren't going as well as they planned, or they give us some insight into how they might best come along with that teacher and with that school system to advocate for their child?
The first thing I would say is to know your worth as a member of that team. It is not, so let's just say painting the picture of an IEP team meeting. You're meeting maybe for the first time or the 50th time, and you're at the table with a group of individuals who are in that career field. You might feel out of place or less valuable, but there's no one more valuable than you when it comes to your child, and that team is meeting about your child.
Right.
So your worth is maybe exceedingly higher at the table because you're there as your child's voice. So that's number one, to know that just because you're in the room with other people who've chosen this as their field of expertise, you are the expert as well. Next, I would say that there are some safeguards in place for you when it comes to knowing your rights. When you first come in, you're offered a parents' rights handbook for your state. And I would advise parents to keep that first copy or that same copy, bring it back with you to the next meeting. Maybe demonstrate that it's highlighted here or there, that you know your rights. also be important to know your rights, so to read it.
Yeah.
But we're going to offer you that Parents' Rights Handbook at every meeting. And if you said, that's okay, I got my copy right here, that we're starting off on the right foot.
Mm-hmm.
We know that we are working with somebody alongside them automatically. So I would say that would be a good idea to have that handbook handy. And another thing, for just so parents have that extra confidence if they need it, you get to bring anybody you want to the meeting. You had a favorite teacher of your child, invite them. I bet you they would say yes.
Yeah.
And you have a neighbor who has gone through this themselves because they're a special needs parent, bring them. Just, you get to have somebody with you as well if you want. You don't have to ask permission. You can just let the team know, hey, I've got an advocate coming with me. It's just a family friend, whoever. And so just that you truly have the confidence going in to be bold with your requests that you might be making or your strategizing. And that's the last thing I'll say about a parent coming in. We want to hear, as an educator, I want to know what works at home because I want to do the same things at school. And I'll share this. There was a time when COVID hit and I got to be designated the homebound teacher. So instead of having school at school, I was seeing students that had, that might have been a little bit more medically fragile, or they might have family members who had more comorbidities. And so they were a little hesitant to go back into the public school setting.
Right.
So my job was to go into their houses and teach them. And there was this one, and if they'll listen to this, I can already hear his grandma laughing because I came into the house. So I've been in there 3 weeks. 3 weeks I've been seeing him, I think like 3 times a week for an hour or so each time. And we go through our things. I had a bucket per kid that I would sanitize. And anyways, I bring it with me. And I pull out my numbers. We're going to go through the numbers. And this kiddo, he could not demonstrate to me that he knew numbers 1 through 10 at all. And I'd hold him up different ways. And we got through some other things, some other skills that I saw in the IEP might have been deficit areas, like he wasn't reading at the time, or he wasn't really verbal at the time too much, but I was hearing these little whispers of him saying words, and I was like, I heard him say blue car. I heard him say that from our story. So anyways, when it came to the numbers, nothing. I'm getting nothing from him. Well, his dad walked in the house, and I said, well, we just finished up, made some progress today. I showed them, said, we still don't have any progress on our number recognition, but that's okay. We keep working on it. And Dad said, what are you talking about? And I was like, well, I had him. He's not able to tell me yet, numbers 1 through 10. I always say yet because it's coming. It's not here yet.
Yep.
His dad said, give me those numbers. He sets them out on the table and he says, son, where's number 8? And he touched number 8, looked at his dad. Where's number 5? Touched it. This is from a spread of 10 numbers. I was giving him 2 at a time, asking him to touch one of them, not even getting 50% accuracy. So I watched, and of course my expectations changed because I'm seeing what you're able to do. You fooled me for 3 weeks. For 3 weeks, I thought you didn't know numbers 1 through 10, but you sure did. And so we still laugh about that. That was, I think, his first grade year. He is going into 6th grade, and I got him again last year in middle school when I changed settings, and I'll have him again next year, and we still laugh about when he lied to me that he didn't know his numbers. But working together like that, that's one of my favorite parts of the job.
Yeah, that's so amazing. My next question, you kind of just touched on it, but I wanted you to share maybe another time when advocacy led to meaningful change for a student.
Okay, so I have a lot of examples that we could use, but I'm going to use a setting as the example. So I was a part of a program, and the program was for students that have severe and profound disabilities. And it's an amazing program. You're working with some of the most just unique, fun children. It's challenging, but it makes a spirit of, there's such a community, family aspect to the people that you're working with each day, because you're doing some things that you wouldn't typically be doing in the school setting. We're changing diapers, we're tube feeding, we're making sure that runner doesn't escape. We're doing all of the things that are a little bit extra. But one particular year, there was an influx of students per classroom because 2 of the classrooms were shut down because we'd sent a lot of the other students out to their other district schools instead of this more restrictive program, looking at the law for the reason why. So we talk about least restrictive environment. This will be a little more restrictive if all of your peers were nonverbal in the room, things like that. So this year, it was just tough. There were 3 classrooms filled to the brim with students, some medically fragile, some with behaviors that could be violent, some with really good eloping skills, and they could get out. And so anyways, you need all the staff. And I'm the most senior member of the team. I get the 1 staff member. So it's should be a ratio of 4 staff members to 12 students at the very, very most. So my ratio is starting out as 2 staff members to 11. And it was just rough. Every day was so challenging with just keeping everyone safe. Don't even add teaching into the mix. That was, if we can get there, that'd be great. But right now, we want to make sure your basic needs are met. And so we had parents coming in to the classroom to drop off students, and they're seeing the chaos. And we had one particular parent who came to eat lunch with her student one day, and she saw that I had one wrapped around my leg, and I was feeding 2 students that were in wheelchairs. And I saw her watching, and when we finished lunch, she said, "Can I come back tomorrow?" And I said, "Yeah, you can come back anytime. Come for breakfast, too, if you want to." She said, "All the time." That parent came every day for the rest of the school year.
Wow.
Not just for lunch. She came for hours just to lend a hand because she saw the need. And as we hired more staff for the classroom, the turnover still existed. I had one person come in. She lasted 2 days. I had, the turnover was very real. We had 4 people hired for the position. All 4 quit. So there were subs coming in every day to try to fill a role. They didn't want to be in there. But it was just a tough situation. But the parents were so just appreciative, kind, and provided tangible support.
Yeah, makes all the difference.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we advocated at higher levels. So, of course, we went to administration. I went to the superintendent, and I was like, hey, we need more support. It did result in, what was the positive result? All of those staff members in that particular program did get a raise. They got a stipend. So that was really neat. And the following year, it was implemented that there would be a ratio of 8 to 3 and 4 if available as far as staff members. So there was some change. But the working together is what I'll remember, just how kind that, I mean, that's my job to support your student in the school setting. But here you were coming to also support in the school setting. It was just really powerful.
Yeah, meaningful. Yeah. That's so great. Thanks for sharing that. That's just pretty cool. Yeah. So talking more about collaboration. So I wanted to ask you, what do you feel what would be the key components of an IEP team? So individualized education plan. I know you talked a little bit about how parents can come prepared, but what else would you say about the IEP team?
I would say if it's not already established right off the bat why each person is there serving on the team, that needs to be out there. So we're here today. So you do an introduction. Typically, the teacher is going to run the meeting. The special education teacher is going to run the IEP meeting. And it's a collaborative effort. Every member of the team is agreeing on the proposed items of the IEP, but really most of it lands on the special education teacher. So as the person running the meeting, I would say you need to make sure that everybody knows why you're here. So we're here to discuss the annual review, and then moving on from there, you didn't really state that what we're here to do is make sure that this student's needs are met in the educational environment, and that when we look at deficit areas today, also keeping in mind that a parent they don't want to come into your meeting hearing about what their kid can't do. That's depressing. I've had many parents tell me that they hate IEP meetings. So my goal is to make you not hate it. I don't want you to come in here dreading the discussion we're going to have about your child. That's horrible. So we are going to talk about some deficit areas and how that we can provide as a whole team these strategies for making it more of an even playing field for your child at school. So that's what I would say the key component is. Everybody knows what they are there for. The LEA representative, in real life, they're there to see what finances are going to be asked about. What are you going to need financially? And so that's what they have to keep in mind. Special education teachers, they're thinking about compliance and knocking out this paperwork and making sure that the kid gets what they need. Parents there just probably wanting to get it over with a lot of the time. So if you all establish what you're there for, it kind of changes the narrative of the meeting, I think produces more positive results overall.
Okay. So then talking about school leadership, I know that you're in a different state than we are now, which, it varies. But in general, how do you feel school leadership can promote a culture of collaboration rather than just compliance?
So you're right. It varies from place to place. I think that if school leadership has a focus on inclusion to begin with, you kind of see it without it having to even be stated. So when your students with disabilities are included in the same things, for example, my school has a policy that if your grade level is going on a field trip, then everyone in that grade level is invited, including my cross-categorical classroom that has students from 5th all the way to 8th grade. My 8th graders got to go on the 8th grade field trip. They got a t-shirt. They got to enjoy the day. We sent an instructional assistant with them. But just that inclusive atmosphere,
culture,
that needs to be established at the admin level so that everybody knows this is the policy. We include all students. When we have award ceremonies, those students are included as well. When we're recognizing who made proficient on state testing, but your students take a different state test because they're on a different content level, then we're going to recognize those proficient as well on that test. So things like that. A step further, I could just use the example of my administrator this year, or this past school year that we're just coming out of. She always invited me to the table on discussions as the IEP chair. She wanted to know from my perspective what certain ideas might look like for my students. And I really appreciated that because sometimes inclusion sounds like a good idea, but maybe it's not. Knowing my students, that would be more triggering this idea. If we're having, so at a previous school, we had this big, huge party, looked kind of like a rave. There was like strobe lights, there was all this stuff, and my students were
not. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a little much. So we still had our big party too, but we also had just some accommodations made just in case, or some things in place. So just working together because really administrators typically are not special education experts.
Right.
Sometimes you get lucky and you have an administrator that might have worked.
Has a background.
Exactly. But that's not usually the case. Usually always great administrators have a heart for their students that have disabilities, and they're just as much their students. You hear a lot the phrase now, everyone's general education first in the school setting. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that statement, but that's kind of how it's phrased right now. Everyone's gen ed first, meaning that they all get these same opportunities, but then you go beyond for your students with disabilities. And that's a good model, but also recognizing that these students have a placement setting that's different, more restrictive for a reason, and it's in the vein of support.
Right.
So, working together with your team that might know a little bit more about special education. You're still the one making decisions, but bringing them in on, we do disability rights, where I will go around and speak to the general education classrooms with students that have disabilities, and we just talk. We talk about, they ask questions that are relevant. I've been asked, is she in a wheelchair because she's hurt? Great question.
Yeah. Let's talk about it.
Right. Let's talk about this. Why is he making that noise? Good question. Let's make that noise together. And then you have your whole classroom going, now close your eyes. Don't you feel relaxed? He is self-regulating. He's relaxing. Thank you for asking. Why is he chewing on that? That feels really good to him. If you squeeze your fists together and release a little bit of tension, let go, that's what he's doing. So these discussions that we're having, they have to be authorized by administration and encouraged by administration. So working as a whole school team in that way is really, I think that bridges a lot of gaps.
Awesome. Okay, now specifically, again, with IEPs. So how can schools ensure that goals set in the IEPs are not just measurable, but also motivating and empowering for the student?
Yeah, that's a good question. So here's some barriers.
Yeah.
Depending on your content area or that student's content area, sometimes there might be a policy or like a regulation that says you have to cater goals to that tested content area. So for example, I might have a student that struggles to do basic addition with sums up to 10, but the 7th grade math curriculum for extended content, meaning the special education version of the curriculum, is well beyond basic addition. So I would need to, according to some policy, make my goal fit one of those content standards if they get specialized instruction in math. And so I'm looking at standards that are talking about multiplying fractions and finding the base 10 values up to the 10,000s place, things like that. They don't match up. So my advice is working with parents to say, what do you want your kid to be able to do that he's not already doing? And then, me too. Whatever the answer is, I agree. That's relevant. Counting money. Of course. That's a smart type of goal to be working on. We're not already identifying bills and coins. Let's do that.
Yeah.
So looking at the content area and saying, okay, we are talking about financial literacy here, and how can I mold that? Instead of molding the goal around that, mold the curriculum around what the child needs. So there's the first thing. Let's not get bogged down by whatever the policy says that you're supposed to be doing regarding goals, because you're the one working in the classroom with the child and knowing their actual needs. Same with their parents, know what they want them to be able to do. I've been in meetings with parents who, just last year, a parent said, "Thank you for putting that goal in there and taking that other one out." And of course, sure, I'm glad you like it. It was just proposed. I wasn't saying this is what it is. And she said, "We fought about that one last year." And I was like, "Who fought about it?" And she said her and the teacher disagreed about that goal in math because mom wanted him to be able to count money and make a purchase. And teacher said, "Well, it has to be." And she was doing, the rule following, which is good to do also. But there should be no fighting about a goal. So if we're at odds about what the goal should be, it's just proposed. It's just an idea. We're going to be agreeing on all of the goals in place. And what makes them agreeable is the fact that they're relevant for the student. So just because curriculum says, "Well, I really want them to multiply fractions," is that very relevant? No. Is it great to know that this is half of a pizza versus this is a fourth of it? I don't know. Just they want to eat the pizza. But can we buy the pizza at the store with this amount of money? Relevant. So I think that when there's a barrier in place where we have a rule that doesn't always make sense, that the educator can use their role of expertise alongside the parent to come up with something perfect every time.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've just got a few more questions. So for our listeners, whether they be parents or educators or caregivers or community members, I wanted you just to give us just maybe a way to be part of the solution.
Yes. Okay. So advocating does not always mean fighting. There's a big difference between advocating and adversity. So here's something that I can recognize as an educator, that when a parent or a community member who sees an injustice has an adverse experience, that sometimes walls go up and gloves come on and they are ready to go to bat for their kid. And so the advice I could give to those people coming in with their experiences that are relevant, that have led to them knowing that they got to advocate hardcore, that when you have a team environment that you're coming into, try to give a clean slate to the new team. It changes pretty much every year, a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get lucky and you get a great teacher for a few years in a row, and sometimes you get a nice run of really great teachers.
Yeah.
And the truth is, not every teacher is a great teacher because our school doesn't pay them enough, and so they go find another job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a barrier for sure.
Sometimes there's no teacher.
Yeah.
Sometimes you've got a sub for a whole year. So there's a lot of reasons why things have been negative in the experience of the parent coming in the past. But if you are able to try to give a clean slate, that's a good place to start.
Great insight, yeah.
Yeah, because whenever you're on one accord, the benefit goes to the student. When you have to sift through it can get kind of heated. There can be arguments. A teacher might wonder why you are having what might look like hostility towards them. They haven't done anything wrong yet. So there's a lot of things and it's emotional.
For sure.
It's emotional anyway. So
Yeah.
you already have the emotions against
By
you.
nature. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the best thing I can say when it comes to advocating versus fighting is that to just give it a try. And then when you're wronged, you have some resources, some things in place because you know your rights, and you can just, as best you can without the heightened emotion, say, that's wrong, and I can show you right here. That's not right. And have somebody also who's knowledgeable with you if you can, if you want to, so that, to hopefully not continue on with a cycle of having these negative experiences. Because like I said before, there's a lot of parents that hate IEP meetings. Yeah. And that hate the whole system. There's a lot of teachers that hate the whole system. But when you're working together, it feels like we're not against each other. We're for a greater cause.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. So my last question is more of a looking to the future, and what gives you, I know we've talked about the barriers, and there are so many, but what gives you hope about the future of special education?
For me personally, what would give me hope are the outcomes of pretty specific situations. If you look at it as a systematic issue where students are not getting that free and appropriate education, which is often the case, then it feels pointless. It feels like I can't even make a difference. But when you look at it on the individual level, we have so many goals accomplished. That's the point.
Yeah.
And we have so many just demonstrations of knowledge going on in this classroom of students that maybe someone who wouldn't know better couldn't learn. I've heard that plenty of times as a special education teacher. So like, how do you teach students who can't learn? Well, I don't even know what that sentence means. So like, you need to spend a day because they all
you don't
can
get it.
learn. The expectation has to be great. If you assume that they cannot do, then they will not.
Exactly.
But if you assume that they can, and you strategize and you try, and lots of error, there's so many times when I was like, ooh, I've got it. I know what we're going to do here. And I'm like, well, that flopped. That was horrible. And then by chance, something else happens, and the result came from something that I didn't even plan. It's like, okay. So looking to the future, I think just remembering all of the impactful moments, whether you're the educator, you're a community member who's just seen some beautiful things happening in classrooms or in your community, or if you're the parent, and recognizing that good things are happening. It's not all doom and gloom. Who knows what finances might come down the line at some point that can offer more support, whether that's human beings in place, or if that's assistive technology, or if it's resources for curriculum, whatever it is, that may or may not come. But what will come is that over the years, you'll look back and see all of the good things that happen in your setting. So if you've heard of that sphere of influence thing, you have just immediately what you can impact, and then beyond that, what you could influence others to impact, and then even the greater picture.
The ripple
focusing
effect
on yours, because yours is good enough.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for your expertise and your heart for students. I know you're making such a difference, and I know what a difference you make with APT providers who are learning from you with Article 9 as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
This concludes the Beyond the Classroom podcast. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.